Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you're doing good. We're going to be talking about cars, the used car market exactly. And it's interesting, the numbers that we're seeing once again. Let's just dive right in. Used car prices record largest year-over-year decline since the financial crisis. Now, a lot of people have emailed me and commented in the videos that they're not seeing the car market coming down. As a matter of fact, I went looking at those new C8 Corvettes the other day, and one dealership literally had them at MSRP. There's no added price. You just go order from the factory and that's it. I went to the dealership down the road and no joke, they were charging $40,000 over MSRP. And the sad thing is they had just sold one off the lot that I saw the night before. It just absolutely blew me away, right? The consumer doesn't seem sometimes to do a lot of shopping around. It blows me away. Now, those are new cars, right? We're going to dive into the used cars. I'm going to link the story below, okay? It says, for those who held off on purchasing a used vehicle over the last 2 years, while watching prices soar to astronomical levels, we have some promising news. 2023 could be the year of the deal. Now, we've talked about this before. I gave a story from somebody that I know in the used car sale market, and they were talking about how they were doing these online auctions, and they are now seeing these cars that banks are pulling back. They're repossessing from people that should not have bought them in the first place, and they turned around and had to give them back to the bank because they bought it with stimulus money, and then they had to give it back because they couldn't afford the $1,000 a month payment. Go figure. And they would, the gentleman I was talking to would say it's the craziest thing. You watch these things go on the auction block, and they're moving slowly as the bids are going. And the problem is there's no bids because the bank is asking for too much for the car. Because you see all the dealers, they just don't have enough money to go in and buy these overpriced cars anymore because there's no buyers on their lot, or at least the buyers that are showing up are not willing to pay these stupid prices for vehicles, especially used vehicles, right? So these cars would just sit there and just go across, no bid, no bid, no bid, and then they would drive off the auction strip and go back into the parking lot. And so these banks are incurring these fees, not only to pay the auction company to not sell their car, but now they go into storage and they wait for the next month, So it says right here, auction giant Manheim found that wholesale used vehicle prices in the first 15 days of October recorded the most significant year-over-year decline of 10.4% since January of 2009. All right, so let's go back. So this is for the first 15 days, the first half of October. And that video that I did talking about what I just said about the auction block and there's no bid, no bid, no bid, that was a month ago, and it was actually a video that got, like, I don't want to say 750,000 views, and it was obvious that banks were having issues. And I think what happened, it sounds crazy, but with tons of social media presence talking about this, covering this, a lot of bankers, people that are in charge of moving units, when we're talking about units, talking about these vehicles that need to move, right? That we've repossessed thousands of them. We need to get them off our balance sheet. We need to be able to show something for it. We don't want to take too much of a write down, and that was the banker's fear all throughout summer. They were listing these automobiles too high. They were priced too expensively, and we now see that bankers are now turning around and going, you know what? I better be the first the exit. And I actually talked about that in that video. They need to, whoever figures out I'm first the exit is going to drop this reserve price on the auctions, and then dealers are going to start to pick them up. There's a little catch here, though, and I'll talk about that in a second. Well, I'll talk about it now. See, a lot of dealers are going to start seeing these prices drop, and they're going to dive into the market. The problem is, what they don't realize is coming into the holiday season, you're going to have fewer buyers. You see, with the upward pressure on the interest rate market, right? And the pressure on the consumer now with inflation, with everything going up in price, in about 60 days to 90 days, you're going to see nobody showing up at these car lots. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath. Well, as of right now, like Manheim says, you're already seeing prices drop 10%. That's the greatest drop since 2009. And what happened in 2009? Everybody was losing their homes in 2007, 2008. They were also losing their cars. So you had a glut of inventory. And we've seen just recently, a buddy of mine told me that inventories are picking up around 50% increase in inventories in their car dealership. And that is very interesting as well, because as you have bloated inventory, if you've got to pay, if you're buying these, and a lot of most auto dealers, they actually use debt to buy groups of cars, right? It's not like they just go out and get one car because they paid cash for it from the profits from the other cars. They go out and they leverage, right? So they go out and get loans for these entire blocks. So that means they've got to sell an entire group of cars to be able to pay off that block of money that they borrowed, if that makes sense. And that can put a lot of pressure on this on the dealership as well. Here's another problem, right? They have to pay those debts. So they can't, if they bought the unit, like let's say 20 cars in one whack with a certain amount of debt, they can't mark those down. They can only mark them down so far, or now they can't pay their debts and they're going to close their doors. So there's going to be this time lag that goes on between when they were able to buy the cars, they couldn't sell them, and they go, oh crap, what are we going to do? And they mark a few down, but then they're going to be tight with the other ones until they figure out, oh my gosh, I literally am screwed. What am I going to do? I'm either going to close my doors, I'm going to mark these things down just to keep the monthly payments and try and get like an equity line of credit. You're going to see a lot of that going on with the small to medium-sized dealerships. And the reason why I say that is because you saw auto dealerships explode across the country about 2 years ago, when everything started ramping up. And especially a lot of, I don't want to use the word shade tree, but in the last year and a half, you saw a lot of these smaller dealerships where guys would have 5, 6, 10 cars on their lot, small lots, just jam packed into a parking lot essentially, or just a blank lot, where they started these side hustles. And a lot of them ended up getting too big for their britches and using a lot of debt rather than going small. Like I talk about in my side hustle course, you just want to start small and you want to start with cash. You want to build on that cash position, because in times of stress, like what's happening right now, and you're about to see by January 1st, you're going to see the evidence of it. Then you want to take advantage of that, because the guys that lose everything, the banks are going to want to liquidate them for pennies on the dollar just because they've got to, recover whatever they can. And you want to come in there and swoop it all up. It says right now that Manheim used vehicle value index peaked in January of 2022 and continues to slide through the fall, now down more than 15% from its high. Now, something else I want to point out, January of 2022 is when it is right after, a month after the Federal Reserve made their official announcement that they are going to get on top of inflation and they're going to start raising interest rates. Well, the thing is, they didn't raise interest rates until this last spring. And what's very important to note is that by January, rates were already rising. Why? Because the bond market was telling you the future. They're forecasting the future of interest rates. Well, the Federal Reserve has come out and said, we're not going to stop raising rates. And with this last information that just came out about the economy, about inflation, the Federal Reserve is backed up against the corner. They're going to have to raise rates again, putting even more upward pressure on car vehicle loans, right? So you are going to see that more and more and more. And again, down more than 15% from the high. If you think about it, right now we just came down 10%. That means it's only dropped 5% from January until September. That's nothing. That's nothing. And now you see 10%. I dare bet that by December, you're going to see 25%. And I know that sounds crazy, but that's why I'm saying patience is the key. And right now is the time just to be saving cash. That's not financial advice on my part. Just it's what I'm doing, right? Going to cash, building up a cash position. I've told you guys before my dreams of what I want to do for my auto, collection. I have a big, a big wish list, but I'm being patient. I'm waiting on the side. All right, guys, that being said, I'm not going to bore you with all the details. I'm going to link the story below so you can take a look at it. It's a very interesting story, good read. I hope you have a great day. With that being said, thanks for all the new subscribers. The Economic Ninja is out.